nights and mouths of desire, and the cry of the morning dove at dawn, and the laughter of the universe behind closed shutters late at night, when all the world goes sleeping, and sleep the suicide of consciousness, and I am entering my silent stage. Oh, endless the splendid life of the world, endless its lovely living and breathing, its lovely sentient beings seeing and hearing, feeling and thinking, laughing and dancing, sighing and crying through endless afternoons, endless nights, drinking and doping, talking and singing, with endless lively conversations over endless cups of coffee, Café Trieste, literary cafes, rainy mornings, endless street movies, passing in cars and trams of desire on the endless tracks of light, and endless long-haired dancing to airless punk rock and airhead disco, through Milky Way midnights to the paradisos of dawn, talking and smoking and thinking of everything endless at night, in the white of night, the light of night. Ah, yes, oh yes, the endless living and loving, hating and loving, kissing and killing, endless the ticking, breathing, breeding, meat wheel of life turning on and on through time, endless life and endless death, endless air and endless breath, endless worlds without end of days, in autumn capitals, their corners of leaves ablaze, endless dreams in sleep, unraveling the knitted sleeves of care, the labyrinths of thought, the lady revs of love, the coils of desire and longing, myriad endgames of the unnameable, endless the heavens on fire, endless universe spun out, world upon a mushroom pyre, endless the fire, shining, transcendent, into the crystal of night of time, in the endless silence of the soul, in the long, loud tale of man, in his endless sound and fury, signifying everything with his endless hallucinations, adorations, annihilations, illuminations, erections, exhibitions, fascismo, machismo, circuses of the soul astray, merry-go-rounds of the imagination, Coney Island of the mindless, endless poem dictated by the uncollected voice of the collective, unconscious blear upon the tracks of time. Had an excerpt of it that we watched earlier, I'm Waiting, is going to be done as a group poem later on here. Right now we have another poet coming up, Maggie Dupree, Lower East Side hero. Celebrate everybody, come on! Woo! Chairs up front, yeah, chairs up here.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Well, let's see. I was never granted the honor of meeting Lawrence Ferlinghetti, but he was one of the first poets I think I ever read. And he gave me kind of the map, among other poets, to get out of Michigan and into a larger world, which I'll always be grateful to him for. So I'm going to read one poem of his, then one of mine. Fortune has its cookies to give out, which is a good thing, since it's been a long time since that summer in Brooklyn, when they closed off the street one half day, and the firemen turned on their hoses, and all the kids ran out in it, in the middle of the street. And there were maybe a couple dozen of us out there, with the water squirting up to the sky and all over us. And there was maybe only 6 of us kids all together, running around in our bare feet and birthday suits. And I remember Molly, but then the firemen stopped squirting their hoses all of a sudden and went back to their firehouse and started playing pinochle again, just as if nothing had ever happened. Well, I remember Molly looked at me and ran in, because because I guess, really, we were the only ones there. So I'm going to read actually from an old poem. I worked for a long time on a 911 ambulance, and this is from a poem called Willy World that I wrote about that time. Pennies, pennies in a fountain. How many pennies make a mountain? In my life, I've done a lot of bad things. I wish I didn't, but what good are wishes? Just pennies thrown into a deep well. You can't change how things are. You can only remember. When I was 5, I led my little brother in front of a car, turning as the bumper knocked him into the soft snow. The black wheel passed over his head. I got older. A Catholic boy was strangled down at the creek, strangled with his own St. Christopher's medal, his butterfly net beside him in the weeds. There were bad people everywhere. I stole magazines down at the district line, women in their underwear bound and gagged on the cover. Madmen had stolen them away. Madmen. That was what my mother meant when she told me about strangers. I set a fire in a shed in the garden, burning in the hot summer sun. Then I grew up, and there was nothing I didn't want. It was all mine for nothing, for a smile, a few dollars. The drugs, the hot nights, a smoky field with the band playing so loud that there was no way to explain. I pulled a knife on a man in a car in Ohio, pledged my love for a few hits of acid or a ride up the coast. I stole what I could from any store owner stupid enough to take his eyes off me, scooped money from the pockets of sleeping families who had invited me into their homes. I knew that I was going bad, rotting from the inside like that first apple. But what could I do? Sometimes I thought I would just get away, find a place out in the country, lots of bugs flying around and corn stalks growing up into the night. A lot of times we talked about that, sitting around high, my mind far away and steamy. But I knew I'd never do it. I needed the city around me, the men with their lies and plane rides to the Mexican border, all-night music and the future bursting open like a sparkler on the 4th of July. I couldn't live in a house, on a street, in a town. If there were madmen, I wanted to meet them. I didn't want them flying around me in a glittering world while I waited blind and silent in the dark. So I opened my eyes, and slowly I became mad. If that's what madness is, to see 1,000 worlds where there is only one. I found myself waking into a night I'd never seen, shaking myself from some stranger's bed, wondering if this was a dream inside a dream. I watched my hours slip away into a dark canyon, where I could never call good back, where not even the faintest light fell to help me remember. It was as if I had fallen into a tornado. All around me, the world flew and roared. I reached out to feel flesh beside me, heard the lies coming out of my mouth. I knew they were lies because I couldn't remember them once they left my lips. I love you. I hate you. What does it mean in the center of a tornado with the wind rushing against your skin and the wind out there waiting to tear you away if you moved? One morning I woke up alone. The phone was cut off and I had no place to be. I went up to the roof. I lay on my back watching the sun move across a distant sky. There was no one I wanted to see. There was nothing I wanted to do. I knew I had to get out. It wasn't such a long road, really. I just turned around and there it was, my way out. I thought I would move through the world I just escaped, but safe, like an angel. I went down and filled out an application. Have you ever been arrested? Never. Have you ever been convicted of a crime? No, only a long time ago, when I lived inside a tornado. And who can blame me now for what I did when I flew with the madmen? They never checked my record. They never checked anyone's. And so I went to work. The calls fell one against the next. They came without warning, bolts of lightning as I drank my coffee or dozed in the front seat of the bus. I didn't talk to anyone. I felt so alone in this city that shook in the path of a hot green wind. This will be the summer, the paper said. This will be the summer that the tornado takes us all. There's no money anymore. People live on every empty corner. Give me what you've got, the men say, as I pass them on my way to work. People get shot every day. The mayor goes to all their funerals. He stands at the altar, his gray head trembling, tears in his eyes. God has called him home, he says. God has called his precious child home. Then God's voice must be everywhere now. In the alleys littered with crack vials, the cardboard cities down by the pier. In the yellow kitchens with their overturned chairs, the one-night hotels and tapas bars. Calling after the sailors laughing on 42nd Street. And the girls who stand along 9th Avenue, watching the Jersey cars. It's just God, that sound you hear, I want to tell them. Calling sweet and low. That sound like the rattle of a snake. It might be God, but it might not be. It might be the devil, if you believe in such things. The Garden of Eden, angels who fell to earth. I used to believe in a lot of things, but I don't now. Now I drive an ambulance in the holiest city on earth.
Is coming up here next. You know, his long-time resident of the Lower East Side and a member of the. Are you here, David?
Yeah.
Here. Oh, here he is. And yeah, and great poet, member of the Umbra Poets, part of the crew, African American poets that were here in the Lower East Side back in the 60s and 70s. From Baraka went uptown. Henderson stayed downtown. Here's David Henderson. He still is the mayor of Harlem.
After Guild was something, man. You read that piece on Lawrence. Wow, that's amazing. You didn't make one club. So anyway, Ferlinghetti, when I was out there recently, signed my book, which I am so happy to be able to show you because this is such an honor for the 100-year-old man. But for sale on a postcard is this poem by Ferlinghetti. It's called "Pity the Nation," and it's after Khalil Gibran. Pity the nation whose people are sheep and whose shepherds mislead them. Pity the nation whose leaders are liars, whose sages are silent, and whose bigots haunts airwaves. Pity the nation that raises not its voice, except to praise conquerors and acclaim the bully as hero, and aims to rule the world by force and by torture. Pity the nation that knows no other language but its own, and no other culture but its own. Pity the nation whose breath is money and sleeps the sleep of the too well-fed. Pity the nation, or pity the people who allow their rights to erode and their freedoms to be washed away. My country, tears of thee, sweet land of liberty. And you can buy this card at City Lights or probably by mail order too, right? So, you know.
What did you and Lawrence talk about when he was signing your book?
Nothing of any great consequence. That's any larger than that happened, you know what I mean? That was it. I'm going to read something called Blues Franchise. Blues as art, as theme, as exhibition, up on a Midtown Metropolis office. Billboard facade across the front, 50 feet wide, 30 feet tall, of a black femme-like face, framed by her fingers tapered upward in the V of her palms, looking off, her eyes below her painted-on eyebrows, and Caucasoid wig in solid black, touching off a violet plunging deeper into the decorated pigment. A frame furrows hints of blue, in a spectral geometry framing tightly the face reposed. A white strap over one deep brown mocha shoulder as background. Could be Transshim or delightful Caledonia, a red skein of a lipstick kiss, imprinted invisibly in nano dimensions. Replications across the marquees of thousands of subway cars, her face on the mini billboard above the seat next to the moving doors, always looking somewhere else as the masses travel to all destinations. Blue smoke surrounding whatever stage has formed for the franchise forever after for as far as the past goes. Pity what you can, no one will be turned away. Entering the negative space of a corporate behemoth, a lobby of the skyscraper all off like enclosures for the interlocking directorates of IR. Consumer, beware of what you purchase with your eyes, the presence of your body. A massive catalog carries the Blue franchise forward in history. The show becomes a book, becomes knowledge, visuals and text to show a forerunner of the ultimate purpose. The Beat Show had jazz as piped-in Muzak, and the masses of the interracial hipsters who discovered Beatitudes within an extension of the blues stayed with the music while the political moved on. The blues as franchise. Mocha, Whitney, you name the corporatocracy, postmodern oppression, from the kidnapping of certain bodies to the occupation of the artistic culture. The blues franchises show and catalog dated in contemporary history as precedent, not necessarily a date etched in the side of an edifice, but treasure assembled and meticulously photographed and stashed, curated with the essays and poetry and artworks on display, and this time, a splattering of books organized in elevated grids to capture a particular time in this historical occupation. The blues is franchised for rent on display in Perpetuity's catalog. Postmodern slavery, kidnapping, hip-hop, jive, conception for the advertising and sale of cotton-made items, rubber and latex running gear to keep them niggas running, sugar-laden products ostensibly to relieve thirst, but nonetheless creators of sugar diseases more deadly than malaria. Upping the ante of the original deal, captive now consumer, his spoken nuances and intimacies marketed back to him along with visual sequences of persuasion, friendly persuasion, nice guys and pretty gals for hire, those who will do and say anything to parlay all they have for nothing, as it turns out. Blues half off, blues 50% off, offer expires at midnight, no money down, void rate prohibited, all sales final. Refund, store credit only for a small percentage of perpetuity. Blues for sale, blues sale, blowing blues smoke as museum commodities, selling blues franchise and prompt to introductory offers, no money down, no interest for 99 years, money back guaranteed, void where prohibited. Perpetuity in whatever time system exists, wherever and however, nonetheless, forever. Thank you.
David Henderson, Mayor of Harlem. Okay, now Puma Pearl is coming up here. Spirit of the Lower East Side, runs a wonderful poetry punk series up at Bowery Electric. Howl, happy to have happening Puma Pearl.
This is the first poetry book I've ever bought.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
I've held on to it like all these years. I was 14, I bought it at the 8th Street Bookstore. I'm pretty sure I thought it was about Coney Island. So, I was asked to do one of mine and one of Ferlinghetti's, so I will do a Coney Island poem of my own. Coney Island burns. Coney Island bodies bob in the waves, and it feels wrong, so wrong, to be so close, almost touching near naked strangers. I miss my vampire days, my zombie friends. They are lost somewhere in hell. Soon I will meet them. The ocean knows it's too late for redemption, and forgiveness is a lie. Strange human heads emerge. They do not swim, simply splash around, riding in on the tide. Little boys learn to float, baby girls wear bikinis. 1 block from the beach, outside a garden, a man sits in his wheelchair, covered with burns. He drinks beer in the shade of a car door. The five stair steps sing "Ooh, Child," and he wears a pork pie hat. He wears it well. His eyes are Pacific green. We smile. If I still drank, I'd probably set my chair up alongside his, eat a burger, hang out. Instead, I burn in a Brooklyn sun, wondering if I was a better person back then. Cars rust beneath that sun. The icy man pushes his cart home, looking tired after another cocoa lime day, and I can still taste the cool sweetness, still feel the heat of that last night. Once there was you, once there was me, and we've all vanished as quickly as an August afternoon. Thank you, and this is Lawrence Ferlinghetti's The Long Street. The long street, which is the street of the world, passes around the world, filled with all the people in the world, not to mention all the voices of all the people that ever existed. Lovers and reapers, virgins and sleepers, spaghetti salesmen and sandwich men, milkmen and orators, homeless bankers, brittle housewives, sheathed in nylon snobberies, deserts of advertising men, herds of high school fillies, crowds of collegians, and talking and walking around or hanging out windows to see what's doing out in the world, where everything happens sooner or later, if it happens at all. and the long street, which is the longest street in all the world, but which isn't as long as it seems, passes on through all the city and all the scenes, down every alley, up every boulevard, through every crossroads, through red lights and green lights, cities in sunlight, continents in rain, hungry Hong Kongs, unfillable Tuscaloosas, Oaklands of the soul, Dublins of the imagination. And the long street rolls on around like an enormous choo-choo train, chugging around the world with its bawling passengers and babies and picnic baskets and cats and dogs, and all of them wondering just who is up in the cab ahead driving the train, if anybody. The train, which runs around the world like a world going round, all of them wondering just what is up, if anything. And some of them leaning out and peering ahead and trying to catch a look at the driver in his one-eyed cab, trying to see him, to glimpse his face, to catch his eye as they whirl around the bend, but they never do. Although, once in a while, it looks as if they're going to. And the street goes rocking on. The train goes bowling on with its windows reaching up. The windows of all the buildings in all the streets of the world, bowling along through the light of the world, through the night of the world, with lanterns at crossings, lost lights flashing, crowds at carnivals, nightwood circuses, whorehouses and parliaments, forgotten fountains, cellar doors and unfound doors, figures in lamplight, pale idols dancing as the world rocks on. But now we come to the lonely part of the street, the part of the street that goes around, the lonely part of the street, and this is not the place that you change trains for the Brighton Beach Express. This is not the place that you do anything. This is the part of the world where nothing's doing, where no one's doing anything, where nobody's anywhere, nobody, nowhere except yourself. Not even a mirror to make you two, not a soul except your own, maybe, and even that not there. Maybe, or not yours, maybe, because you're what's called dead. You've reached your station. Descend.
Well, I'm glad to be reading for Lawrence Ferlinghetti, who is so fabulous. Oh. And we owe him a lot. Are there not still fireflies? Are there not still fireflies? Are there not still 4-leaf clovers? Is not our land still beautiful? Our fields not full of armed enemies? Our cities never bombed to oblivion? Never occupied by iron armies speaking iron tongues? Are not our warriors still valiant, ready to defend us? Are not our senators still wearing fine togas? Are we not still a great people? Is this not still a free country? Are not our fields still ours? Our gardens still full of flowers? Our ships with full cargoes? Why then do some still fear the barbarians are coming in their huddled masses? Who is that sound? What is that sound that fills the ear drumming? Is not Rome still Rome? Is not Los Angeles still Los Angeles? Are these really the last days of the Roman Empire? Is not beauty still beauty and truth still truth? Are there not still poets? Are there not still lovers? Are there not still mothers? Sisters and brothers? Is there not still a full moon once a month? Are there not still fireflies? Are there not still stars at night? Can we not still see them in the bowl of night, signaling to us in our so-called manifest destinies? Well, you can't beat that, but I'm going to try to keep up with it at least. I couldn't figure out what to read, but since I am at a very advanced age now, I thought I would read from, yes, that's true, from my last book, which is called Doing 70, and when I looked at the title, I thought, good Lord, I'm not even doing 70 anymore. But this is a poem called Doing 70, a Passion Play, for Helene Dorn, 1927 to 2004. I will explain. Helene Dorn, who was married to the poet Edward Dorn, and I met early in the 60s. And we wrote letters to each other. She always lived somewhere out west, and I always lived here. And we wrote for many years, 6 years. And in 2016, I published a book about her letters. And just to keep her alive, because she had already died. She was a little older than I. So this is called Doing 70, a Passion Play. How's the mic? Am I too loud? I have a loud voice without the mic.
Do it without the mic.
Act 1. On the Mass Pike, on the first rest stop past Boston, the starter breaks. The lights and radio go on, but there's no click-click. It's 6 p.m. on a hot, humid summer Saturday. I'm headed home to New York with a file box of letters in the trunk. What could have caused this? Overeating? I'd only been doing 70. The cashier calls 3 times for a guy who appears at last with doped-up eyes and writes down a number. The man on the phone says, look for a Chuck, but it might take 20 to 30, and if he doesn't come, call me back. Pattern, a portent, well, a second chance. I start right away for the car. The box of letters is heavy every way. 30 pounds, 4 decades, 2 women, 1 dead, the other stuck. Fuck. But even as the door of the store closes behind me, a flatbed roars into the sunburned parking lot. Waving and pointing, I run the rest of the way, and soon an audience has gathered. A 3-generation family with 2 awed children. Everyone likes a driver, and here's a young, good-looking, acrobatic one who parks precisely load-ready, then in one quick movement swings out, takes my keys, turns on the lights and radio, and says, it's probably the starter. Well, I know that. But Ryan, as I've known him, notes at once that I've gone past cause to effect. He tells me the terms, admits he's been to New York twice, though not in many years. How many years are in him? Maybe 23? But his self-possession rivals his grace. I assure him I know the roads. When we agree, his excitement parallels my relief. He loads the car on the bed and me in the cab. The family watching waves as we drive away. This is when I discovered that the truck in in which I am riding has no AC and not too many shocks. Oops, so, Act 2. Windows down, we leave the pike for local roads. Ryan stays on his phone, all about getting lucky and going to New York City. At a station, he gets diesel, cash, a big jug of water. Back on the highway, the shouting wind is a third rider. On my mind, and in the side mirror, the car on the flatbed, all those old words stirring. It's the night of a huge blue moon as July becomes August, and I've been doing 7 to 16 days and I'm still new to it. A broken starter isn't auspicious. And you, I mean, are not even here for the humor. Shit. But so far, nothing has changed about being here now to get there then. They've got us on this drop. What I have of you is safe in the trunk, and I'm in the cab with Ryan. When I ask if he minds if I take off my shoes, he says, do what you like, we've got a long way to go. But of course we haven't gone far before I'm in love. Every time we hit rough road, the glove compartment falls open into my lap and my barefoot closing it seems provocative. Though I know doing 70 means giving up the pretty boys. You lust, you lose, you hear the cry of crows. It's hard to talk over the wind. Sometimes we travel miles between sentences. The Red Sox have just made a terrible trade. Ryan goes to college on and off for law enforcement. He's 2 months into driving his truck. One time, in Jamaica Plain, a guy who couldn't pay tried to stab him. At Midway stop, he asked me where we are on the map. Like me, he likes to learn the road. Then he helps me get a drink. We are to each other a profile only. Yet there's easy body language between us, some physical trust. I'm sweaty and dirty and beginning to feel as if I'm the one who really got lucky. After the pike, we take 84 to 91 to 95, Ryan reporting to his dispatcher, whose staticky voice seems tense, as if her tracking might not prevent his transfiguring. But despite a side trip over the Tri-Road to Queens, my fault, he gets us into Manhattan and onto 2nd Avenue, where the real fun begins. It's Saturday night, New York. The neighbors are out. There are buses, taxis, bikers, bad drivers, jaywalkers, cell phone talkers, a jabber and clank of outdoor eaters. Ryan drives among them all, 2nd Avenue, end to end. Act 4. At the parking lot, he once again commands an audience. After driving 190 miles at night on 4 unfamiliar major highways, he backs his load through tight, curving, gravel spaces, then slides it gently into place. Ryan's next feat is to perfectly parallel park a flatbed on a New York City street, where he gets the credit form signed in all the right places, and then, ready to turn back, guns the truck across a double yellow, yelling, "What the hell? I'm from Worcester, and I'll just make a Huey here." Reprise. The box is nestled in my hall. The route I've written out reviewed, and Ryan reminded that he said he'd take a nap. But now it's 11. He won't get back before. But no, he'll blast the radio, work the overnight, why not? He knows what holds him, lucky Ryan, who drove to New York City. And lucky us, my dear Helene, the dead and living, safely home. Thank you.
the incomparable Hetty Jones. And it looks like Ed Sanders is coming up here next. The author of the Fog's most recent book, Broken Glory. You've got to see it. An amazing illustrated history of RFK's assassination. You know nothing, but reading the book, you know everything. Please welcome Ed Sanders.
With thanks and glory to Lawrence Ferlinghetti.
Yes.
I was in jail in Connecticut after attempting to swim aboard a nuclear submarine armed with nuclear missiles, and wrote a long work on toilet paper and the insides of cigarette packs called Poem from Jail. I typed the poem, and then after I had read it aloud for my friends, I decided to send it to Lawrence Ferlinghetti at City Lights, the publisher I most respected in all the world. And then, wow, a letter of praise from him, and he offered to publish it. I had not yet met Allen Ginsberg and Corso and Burroughs, Kerouac, but I had corresponded with Allen while he was in India with Peter, Joanne Kiger, and Gary Snyder. And Allen had sent a poem which I published in 1963 in Fuck You, a magazine of the arts. Not long before Ferlinghetti published Poem from Jail. Then 12 years later, Joanne Kiger attended my 1975 lecture at Naropa on investigative poetry. And Joanne recommended it to Lawrence that he publish it, and publish it he did, to my lasting gratitude. Over the years, I read with Lawrence, toured Italy a couple of times with him, watching him keep in shape with morning swims in the various hotel pools. And I've always been grateful and astounded that he published me, a lad from the Midwest, washed ashore in the bountiful land of New York City. Thank you, O Lawrence, and happy, happy, happy birthday. I remember around the year 2000, Lawrence Ferlinghetti came to Woodstock. And he asked me to recommend a real estate dealer. And when I did, he went with her to look at run-down but fix-upable historic houses along the Hudson. But all of them much too pricey for Ferlinghetti. You know, very tight with money, probably has every quarter he ever earned. The houses she showed him of a historic nature were too pricey for Ferlinghetti, who wanted a deal. After all, Lawrence had been born in Yonkers. This poem, From Pictures from the Gone World, is about him finding a book by Yeats in an elevated train he was riding in the late 1940s. When he was writing his master's thesis at Columbia on John Ruskin and the painter Turner. Reading Yeats, I do not think of Ireland, but of midsummer New York, and of myself back then, reading that copy I found on the 3rd Avenue L. The L with its fly-hung fans and its signs reading, "Spitting is forbidden." The L careening through its 3rd-story world with its 3rd-story people in their 3rd-story doors, looking as if they had never heard of the ground. An old dame watering her plant, or a joker in a straw, putting a stick pin in his peppermint tie and looking just like he had nowhere to go but Coney Island. Or an undershirted guy rocking in his rocker, watching the L pass as if he expected it to be different each time. Reading Yeats, I do not think of Arcady, but of its woods, which Yeats thought dead, I think, instead of all the gone faces, getting off at midtown places with their hats and their jobs, and of that lost look, and with their hats and their jobs, and of that lost book I had, with its blue cover, and its white inside where a pencil hand had written, "Horsemen pass by."
And I believe Eileen Miles is sure. There you are. Good. Come on up, Eileen. Okay, we're running quick. Anything else? Okay, Eileen Miles, Afterglow, and I Must Be Living Twice, new poetry book. Please welcome her.
Them.
Them, please welcome them. Here they are.
Thank you, Bob. I feel like a hero just because I just got off a plane. It wasn't Australia. It was London, but I feel like I'm in my pajamas. I'm about 5 hours off. Maybe. My Ferlinghetti experience was that I met Alan when I was in my 20s and at a reading, and then he decided that Ferlinghetti should publish his poem, and he sent it to him, and indeed he did publish it, but he sent me a poem, he sent me a postcard back and said, "I like the poem very much, but the ending is a little lame." So I still resent him for that. But he's probably right. I think we have a different aesthetic. He's like, right. So I have a poem, and I don't know, since I was not here earlier, I don't know what was, definitely this one wasn't read. It's called Johnny Nolan Has a Patch on His Ass. I'll read the title again. It's underlined too, which is it's very old school. Johnny Nolan has a patch on his ass. Kids chase him through screen door summers, through the back streets of all my memories. Somewhere a man laments upon a violin. A doorstep, baby cries and cries again, like a ball bounced down steps, which helps the afternoon arise again to a moment of remembered hysteria. Johnny Nolan, underlined again, Johnny Nolan has a patch on his ass. Kids chase him. That's it. Did somebody, so my friend, the British poet Sophie Robinson, who, if you don't know, she has a book called Rabbit, which is so awesome. You must read Sophie Robinson. But she teaches in, I guess, Norwich, and all her beginning students, she always starts with Ferlinghetti's manifesto Poetry as Insurgent Art, which I only have a little piece of it, but nobody's read this, right? You already read it.
You're not allowed here, but
Hey, Johnson has read it in her life. Right. Many of us have read this, so I'm just reading the first few lines of it, because that's all I have. Poetry as Insurgent Art. I am signaling you through the flames. I mean, this is like somebody who is not lame. This guy's not lame. I am signaling you through the flames. I am signaling you through the flames. The North Pole, this is the best line. The North Pole is not where it used to be. Which is incredible. I mean, I think it's actually true, right? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like stars that used to be the North Pole are now down here. And the North Pole. Manifest destiny is no longer manifest. Civilization self-destructs. Nemesis is knocking at the door. What are poets for in such an age? What is the use of poetry? The state of the world calls out for poetry to save it. If you would be a poet, I mean, this is very good to give to your students. If you would be a poet, create works capable of answering the challenge of apocalyptic times, even if this meaning sounds apocalyptic. Now, what he does now actually is lame. Because he goes, the last stanza that I have, he goes, you are Whitman, you are Poe, you are Marx. Every single person in this list is white. I was like, come on, Lawrence, you must have figured it out by now. So we'll just say that's gone. And I've ended the poem. So this is and now I'm going to read a poem that I wrote, and it's called Snow, but it's more like snow. It's that day that it snowed recently, that it didn't snow. It was like the total fake snowstorm, and it was like I could teach at NYU that night, and I was so ready for this class that makes me totally nervous, and then there was no class, so I was just like in bed writing snow. So it's S''N''O'W, kind of like snow. What's that? It was a snow job. It was a snow job, right. I was home getting a nice snow job. Snow. The quick exchange of emails between the former lovers creates a soft hole in the day and the night before. It was snowed, but it was supposed to be larger, and everything's closed. The streets are wet, I hear, and I won't step into them. One poem for today, but no, many little ones. The coffee slightly altered is good, my bare feet in bed ready to work. I work in the field of dreams where I have met you many times. I feel closer to you this morning and probably last night when the doorway slightly opened because of our notes was flooded with ghosts. When I was young, I liked the emptiness of my home, and now, like it or not, here is this sweet accumulation. The cameras, all that, everything I do can't touch the single statement of breeze and loss and quaint beauty, things I've had since I was a kid, the secrets of my home. I feel condemned by this chaotic museum of stuff, and yes, I desire to photograph it, the bowls you liked, the cup you touched, and me in a t-shirt that used to be special, and now I carouse in bed with myself in it. I don't know if this will ever be different, and that is the feeling of this. I feel like a tree, the invisible part of friendship and drinking together and mourning. One empty wall is the least I can do for myself. Late at night, on it, in my, it worked, but it wasn't right. Late at night, I enjoy the brown pages of a cowboy show, TV on my lap, till practically dawn. Interesting, written by a gambler. Oh, I have so many shows. One in Florence, one day you were taking a shower. I think, I love this television. Because it's become the way to love, the road of becoming is a screen belonging on it in my dream. The excellent moments, the man barges in and says, do you ever think about film? The poetry of accident haunts like a circus tent over my days, and that fades in a new one. I begin to write about dying. This story ends. It begins to be part of the plot. And do I love you for your distance from it? Or could I love you because you are close? Or your exciting difference, so smart? I love myself. The squeaky little voice that says, in here, owning the void and grooving on it. Voiceover, you're not so bad. And then I began to work. My dead mother is around, my lover not far, keeping you here by not calling anyone. Is that the tub in which I die? Where do, woo, woo, woo. What's that bird? Because I don't have kids and this is such a blessing.
Here he is, Lenny Kay.
Thank you so much. That's my silence of words. So beautiful to be here. Celebrating somebody who's gotten into triple figures. And for those of us who are golden agers, well, we're just getting good. I'm so happy to be here with such honored company. Ed Sanders. Rock and roll, and poetry, and transgressive can be real. And Waldman, who communes with the spirits every time she sings. I mean Miles, Eddie Jones, and the Beats. Because I have to tell you that when I'm a little too young to be a beatnik, just by a couple of years. But I have to say that the example of these poets really helped change my life. Reading this book taught me that you could speak poetry in the vernacular. And reading this book let me know where I wanted to be. I thought about what to read. I know Coney Island of the Mind is the hit. But there was a poem in the beat scene on page 131, should you find it at a great used bookstore, which we all love, called Tentative Description of a Dinner Given to Promote the Impeachment of President Eisenhower. And especially given the events of today, which I couldn't fucking believe. I have to say that history often reveals itself once as tragedy and the second time as farce. So let's have a little dinner for the impeachment to come. After it became obvious that the average rain would never stop, and after it became obvious that the president was doing everything in his power, and everything it became obvious that the president's general staff was still in contact with the president deep in the heart of Georgia, while deep in the heart of South America, the president's left-hand man was proving all the world loves an American. And after it became obvious that the strange rain would never stop, and that old soldiers never drown, and that roses in the rain had forgotten the word for bloom, and that perverted pollen blown on sunless seas was eaten by irradiating fish who spawned in cloudless streams who felt care onto our dinner plates. And after it became obvious that the president was doing everything in his power to make the world safe for nationalism, his brilliant military mind never having realized that nationalism itself was the idiotic superstition which would blow up the world. And after it became obvious that the president nevertheless still carried, no matter where he went in the strange rain, the little telegraph key, which like a can opener, could be used instantly to open, but not to close the hot box of final war, if not to waylay any stray assassin action by any straying assassin section, lieutenant, pressing any strange button anywhere far away over an Arctic Ocean, thus illuminating the world once and for all. And after it became obvious that the law of gravity was still in effect, and that what blown up must come down, oh, everyone, including white citizens. And after it became obvious that the voice of America was really the deaf ear of America, and that the president was unable to hear the underprivileged natives of the world shouting, "No contamination without representation in the strange rain for which there was no escape, except peace." And after it became obvious that the word truth had only a comic significance to the Atomic Energy Commission, while the president danced madly to mad Atlas Strauss waltzes wearing special atomic earplugs which prevented him from hearing Albert Schweitzer, and also 9,235 other scientists telling him about spastic generations of blind, boneless babies in the rain for which there was no escape except peace. And after it became obvious that the president was doing everything in his power to get through the next 4 years without eating any of the crates of irradiant vegetables well-wishers had sent him from all over, and which were filling the corridors and antechambers and bedchambers and chambers pots in the not-so-white house, not to mention all the other various golf houses scattered out the land of prosperity. And after it became obvious that the great soldier had become the great conciliator, who had become the great compromiser, who had become the great fence-sitter, who actually had heard of the Supreme Court's decision to desegregate the land of the free and the home of the brave, and not only heard of it, but actually read it. And after it became obvious that the president had gone to Gettysburg 47 years ago and had given his Gettysburg address to the postman and so dedicated himself to the unfinished task, then it was that the natives of the Republic began assembling in the driving rain for which there was no escape except peace. And then it was that no invitations had to be sent out to the great testimonial dinner except the politicians whose respected names would then wait to the project, but who did not come anyway, suspecting the whole thing was a plot to save the world from the clean bomb from which there is no escape except peace. Women who still needed despair to look tragic, to look truly tragic, came looking very beautiful and very tragic indeed, since there was despair. And some men also despaired and sat down in Bohemia and were too busy to come. But other men came whose only political action during the past 20 years had been to flush a protesting toilet and run. And babies came in their carriages, carrying irradiated dolls and holding on to crazy strings of illuminated weather balloons filled with Nagasaki air. And those who had not left their TV sets long enough to notice the weather in 7 years now came swimming at the rain, holding their testimonials. And those came who had never marched and sports car protests and parades. And those came who had never been arrested for sailing and protesting rolling rule in the Pacific oceans. And Noah came in his own ark, looking surprisingly like an outraged Jesus Christ. Cruised about, flying his pinion and picking up 2 of each beast that wanted to be preserved in the rain that was raining real cats and dogs, and for which there was no escape except peace. Peddlers came in lead jock straps, selling hot dogs and rubber American flags and waving petitions, proclaiming it un-American to play golf on the same holy days that clean bombs were set off on time. And finally, after everyone who is anyone, and after everyone who is no one, had arrived, and after every soul was seared and waiting for the symbolic mushroom soup, served for the keynote speeches to begin, the president himself came in, took one look around, and said, "We resign."
Lawrence Ferlinghetti, May 5th, 1958.
So here we go with Ann Waldman's coming up now. I call her the queen of poetry. I don't know what you do. I hope you've read her new book, Trickster Feminism. If not, do it. Here she is, Ann Waldman.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, everyone, for being here this very spirited day. And shout out to Lawrence. It's so important that you continue to live and live my whole lifetime. And it's great when you've read him in grade school. Although I'm not a member of the Beat Generation. I'm too young for the Beat Generation. Just a little head up. And I'm teased about how I'm going to come to my door as the last Beat Generation. In any case, having that book, you know, you turn on at 13 or something, and then you get to know this person and follow their work their whole life. And great editor, great publisher, wonderful, great poet, novel out recently, great anarchist, activist, taught me a lot of things about community and about small press realities and the interconnectedness and the symbiosis of our whole scene. And like Ed, we traveled together in Italy, and he took very good care of himself indeed. In fact, he did not drink the Sambuco that everybody else was having at 11 o'clock in the morning, except you. So I did want to say, you know, often the male beats are considered sort of misogynistic and so on. I've felt so supported in my work with Lawrence and with Alan, of course, and Ed, and so many others. And I was reading it was a recent poem called Fast Speaking Woman, indebted to Maria Sabina, the extraordinary Mazatec shaman, one of the great poets of the 20th century, barefoot all her life, from a village outside Oaxaca. I hope you know her work a bit. And Huautla, yes, Huautla. And she, you can get her work, and you can hear her work, and you can read the wonderful Rothenberg Pierre-Jaurice collection about her and her bio and her autobiography. In any case, Lawrence heard me read that poem. We were in San Francisco benefit, I think a Buddhist benefit with Alan and Joanne Kiger and Michael McClure and others. And after at the end of the reading, he came up after me and said, I want to see that poem, I'd love to publish it with City Lights. And that was like some amazing adolescent fantasy that I used to have about having a City Lights book. So I'm incredibly indebted, and it set me on an amazing path that opened up a lot of worlds. So I'll read a little bit of that, and then I want to read the Canticle of Jack Kerouac. Woman never under your thumb says, skull that was a head says, bloodshot eyes says, I'm the collie woman, the killer woman, woman with salt on her tongue. Fire that cleans, fire that catches, fire burns hotter as I go. Woman traded in her secrets never says, woman reversed the pole says, woman never left America to know this, but she did says, she did leave. Woman combs snakes out of her hair, woman combs demons out of her hair, woman lies down with a cobra, then meditates under a cobra canopy. Woman had a bone in her throat says, was it yours says, she admits she has a taste for you says, she's cannibal woman, collie woman. Woman's tongue once split in 10 directions. 1, I'm a savage woman. 2, I'm the running woman. 3, I'm the fire dancer with cold black feet. 4, I'm the old-time thinker. 5, poser. 6, I'm the redactor. 7, oater. 8, I haunt you with my songs. 9, I was the nun. Now I am bound by desire again. I'm the chittipati woman. 10, I'm the chittipati woman. 10, the dancing skull woman. Mouth is moving, says. Skull, mouth moving, says these things, says terrible things as I go. Mouth is gaping, tongue is bleeding, everywhere suffering as I go. I'm the celebrity woman, the luminary woman, the standout woman, the braggart woman, the shrew at the window woman, I'm the stigma woman, the beaten woman, the disgraced woman, hag woman. Where will I go? Who will have me? Water clean me as I go. I'm the camouflage woman, I'm the assuaged woman, I'm the ravenous woman, I'm the Kali Yuga woman, I'm the high-pitched woman, not a trifling woman, hissing woman. I'm the woman with the fangs, I'm the woman with the guns, I'm the woman with tones, I'm the book woman, I'm the stolen book woman, fire burns hotter as I go. Woman was in the world, was walking, woman was singing, sounding the day away. Sounds like a cranky old machine, someone said. That someone was a mean man, mean child man. But she just ignored the cranky old machine part and went on her way. Woman took her haughty self out of the sky. She had a nose that tall, how tall, that tall, and stuck up it was. Mincy, 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 she cried. Mincy, Mincy, Mincy. She was burning all right. Her house, the one she carried on her head, was afire. I'm the woman never made a fool of, woman who hides her heart, woman hidden in long sleeves of green and gold. Woman shelved one night while he beds down with a deer. I'm the woman wandering the forest till moon, tilt moon, full moonlights. I'm a homey eye, half moon he returns. I'm the woman waiting, the woman counting moments. A moment never existed and he walks in. I'm the woman who scribes this text long after the animals lie down, chopping wood outside the retreat hut, stoking the fire with my little stick, a candle to light a teacher's face. I learn by books, I learn by singing, I recite the chant of 100 syllables, I write down my messages to the world, the wind carries them invisibly, staccato, impulses to the world! Wonderful composer and player who grew up in sort of Peak territory, grew up near Cherry Valley where Alan had his farm and on McDougal Street. And we're going to do the Canticle of Jack Kerouac. Far from the sea of black and gray, the white clouds scudding over Rome, and the white birches, the bare white birches torches on the clear night roads, flashing by in darkness. Where once he rode in Pop's old Plymouth, and the rich white face of the Merrimack Madonna shadowed in streetlight. The Merrimack shroud waters, a leaf blown upon seaweed, out of Brittany, over endless ocean. There's a garden in the memory of America. There is a night bird in its memory. There is an andante cantabile in the garden in the memory of America. In a secret garden, in a private garden, a song, a melody, a night song echoing in the memory of America. In the sound of a night bird outside a low window. In the quiet kids in tenement bars at night. In the deep sound of a woman murmuring, a woman singing, a shadow room, in an old house alone, as the world cranks by, thundering like a lost lumber trunk on a steep grade in Kerouac, America. The woman sits silent now, walking backward to whispers mother-in-law, and all the tough old Canuck mothers and Jackson there, and they continue rocking, and they still on stormy nights show through as a phantom after image on silent TV screens, a withered after image that will not go away. In Moody Street, in Bohemia Street, in Dirt Street, Sarah Avenue, in Pawtucketville, and in the Church of St. Jean Baptiste, and the old Worthen Bar in Low Mass at midnight, in the now of 1987, Kerouacian revelers, crowd world moons, ancient carved initials of a million drinking bouts, the clouds of the shrouded stranger upon each road where the lights of Kerouac, lumberjack, painted their defiance of dumb death. The broken wood and the black of the hands filtering, full cord waves of the breath of the Buddha, still lost in Lowell's vast tragedies of darkness with Jack. And the Four Sisters Diner, also known as the Owl, Sunday morning now, March 87, or any year of Sunday specials, scrambled eggs and chopped ham, the bright booze loaded with families, Lowell Greek and Gaspé French, Joie Patois and Argos Argot, Spartan slaves escaped into the new world, here incarnate in rush of blood of American Sunday morning. And T-shirt, Jim Kerouac comes smiling in, baseball cap cocked up, hungry for mass, in the church of all hungry saints, haunt of all night owls, blessing every booth. Ah, he, the silent smiler, the one with the lumberback shirt. Lumberjack shirt and cap with flaps askew, blowing his hands in winter, as if to light a flame. The shrouded stranger knew him as T-Jean, the smiler, looking past red brick mill buildings, down by the river run. Oh, mighty Merrimack, thunderous husher, where once upon a midnight there, the young T-Jean danced with me there, in the moon drowned light, and rolled upon the greensward, his mother and lover, all one with Buddha in his arms. And then T-Jean with jewel tongue disguised as an American tobacco clad ship crossing America in speedy cars, and Dr. Sachs's shadow shadowing him like a shrouded cloud over the landscape. Song of broken rose, some drunken with Whitman, and Jack London, and Thomas Wolfe still echoing through a 1930s America, a 1940s America, an America now long stations in small, lost towns. Tijon's vision of America, seen from a moving car window, the same as Wolf's lonely sweeping vision, glimpsed from a coach train long ago. Thus did he see first the dark land. And so in an ancient midnight bar, somewhere west of middle America, where one drunk banana shades of one on a Merrimack corner makes him a gesture with her eyes, a blue gesture, and Tijon answers only with his eyes, and the night goes on with him, and the light comes on him, making love in a parking lot. In the dark of his felony night, in the light of the illuminated stations of the cross, and the illuminated grotto down behind the funeral home by roar of river, where now Tijon alone returned to Lowell in one more doomed Wolfian attempt to go home again, gropes past the 12 stations of the cross, reciting aloud the French inscriptions in his Joual accent, which makes the plaster French Christ laugh and cry as he hefts his huge cross up the eternal hill, and a very real tear drops in the grotto in the face of a stone virgin. Upon light, the mountain keeps still, hands over ears, he steals away with a bell.
That reminds me of a song that I wrote called, Natalie, I think we get a little ring on the finger of reality. 1, 2. I wrote a song called The Rain Falls Down in Amsterdam. And I did it right after the wall fell. And I was on tour with a bunch of musicians, maybe you know Tom Van Sant, Guy Clark, and David Holman. So I wrote this in 1989, and that's sort of like around the time of the Beats. roots. Out there in the open, with a smile and a growl, the cages have been broken, and the beast is on the prowl. Fire burn those houses, burn those refugees. Be the crowd and do your work, applauding silently. Round up all the gypsies, go sell them on the trains. Can't you smell the smoke now, drifting through the rain? Jews, better draw your curtains, you better lock your doors up tight. They're snarling up in Rostock, in the beer hall belly at night. You know the fourth Reich's coming, baby, they're writing out the page. In Rome, Berlin, and Stockholm, yeah, the beasties left the cage. Here comes 1932, here comes deja vu. Those cattle cars and Yellowstone, is it someone that you knew? It's out there in the open, it's crawling on the move. The cages have been broken, and the beast is running loose. Those canals and cozy houses, those reflections in the lights, you can almost feel it moving. Monster in the night, but he's looking with his yellow eyes. He's out to settle scores in the dim medieval distance. Can he breathing down your pores? In Salt Lake and in Rio, you know the beast can smell the flames. He's typing hate out in Marseille, typing out your name. You can feel the windows shatter as the time is drawing near. I said, crystal nods back in town. Welcome back to the house of mirrors. Here comes 1940, 1932. Those cattle cars and yellow stars, right back to the roots. It's out there in the open, there's something smelling bad. The cages have been broken, and the beast is running mad. The scapegoats, was it me or was it you? It's right there in the open, don't just stand there hoping. The leashes have been broken and the dogs are on the loose. Well, I've been here thinking how lucky we've been. We never touched the barbed wire, we never saw the monkey grin. No rifle ever smashed our face, no barrel electric shock. But I'll confess them all, I know who I am and who I'm not. To see returning killers is to see the lion yawn. The skinheads do their dirty work for the cloak and dagger palms, but the dark guys will be waiting there when the boys they get crossed. So fuck your fluffy swastikas and shove your iron cross. Comes 1914, 1932. Those cattle cars and yellow stuff, right back to the roots. Out there in the open, it's crawling on the move. The cages have been broken, and the beast is running loose. Can't you smell the blood now? Can't you smell the truth? The rain falls down in Amsterdam. Oh, the rain falls down in Amsterdam. The rain falls down in Amsterdam. Oh, the rain falls down in Amsterdam. got leather collars I wanted to meet the beats. So I hitchhiked across the country, and I ended up in San Francisco, and I was playing at a club called the Coffee Cup. The people, it was Howard Hessman was the bartender, and he vouched for me because I was underage, because they served alcohol. And Janis Joplin was playing there on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I was playing there on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And Dino Valente, the guy who wrote, "Come on people, let's get together." Let's get together. Can you turn it down a little bit? Just the volume and John.
You say Dino?
Dino Valente. Do you remember him? Yeah. Yeah, and he played all those songs. And he was doing Dino on the side. But he wrote this song about peace and love, and he walked around the streets, he was a scary guy with this huge Bowie knife going down his thigh. It was like this giant knife with a leather and a stone. But he was there, so it was a kind of a beautiful scene. And I met a poet named David Meltzer. And David was on the scene, he was a brilliant poet, and he was a clerk at the City Lights Bookstore. He was a clerk. And so through him I met Ginsberg, and I met Neil Cassidy, and I met Lawrence Ferlinghetti, of course, and just the people on the scene there. So that was kind of my dream. I went out to California and met these people. But something strange happened. November 22nd, John F. Kennedy got killed. And I didn't know any much about it. I was doing my laundry, and I was going up a hill. No bag in the laundry, just walking up trying to make a phone call. And somebody comes in on the streets and the press and they're shot, someone killed. And what? So we just had this crazy moment where we thought, well, okay, there's a bird flying in the sky whose shadow is protecting this kind of movement, these good things that are happening, not of another generation. That night, we went to a poetry reading in The Hague. And Alan was reading, and he just from that to Vietnam. He was in Southeast Asia. And he was reading, and Michael McClure was there, of course, and Neil Cassidy, and Lawrence Ferlinghetti, and others. So it was a strange scene. And after that, in the dark room, and after that was we all piled into cars and went out to Lawrence Ferlinghetti's house. And I wrote this song called Beat Avenues, which was 26 minutes long, set to tape, which I performed at Bob Holman's place, the Poetry Club.
Not about that many.
10 minutes ago, anyway. Well, so we did that, and it was wonderful. Anna came down that night. So it was John Joanna. And so I read this thing. There weren't a lot of people. It was fun to do. But years later, I did a gig at the Museum of Fine Arts with Lawrence Ferlinghetti. He read new stuff, and I did perform as Beat Avenues the second time I ever did it. And I was very nervous because I was not sure. In the song, I said we went up to Lawrence Ferlinghetti's house. But I wasn't sure for sure was it really his house. But I wrote it in a song, so in a way, I tried to, talk around it and say, didn't you live in a house? It was like a lot of stairs going on. Victorian, long hall. That was my question. Just you remember me. But at this party, they were drinking all this jug wine, and nobody seemed too concerned about the assassination of the president. In fact, Allen Ginsberg was not a big fan of the president. So there was this whole other, because he'd been to Vietnam, and he'd heard other stories about what was really going on. So I'm going to just sing a couple passages from this song, if it's all right with you. Try to keep it. My friend Rick Danko says rehearsal's a negative attitude. So, in the midnight, we're going to get a key. It was high noon in the neighborhood, and the city fell in shock. moment when I heard the news, the president had been shot. Sun was shining, nothing shaking, days so big and blue. Me stuck in a phone booth, arm full of wash, trying to call my gal across the bay. Only to hear crackling metal voice say, "Try again, sir. All circuits busy." What in the world was going on? I looked around with a feeling strange and lost. It was haunted in the neighborhood. It was spooky fast. Startled words became a flood. Tongues gathered and soon began to flock. And the moment when they heard the news, the president had been shot. Me walking in space, whistling in the dark. I didn't have a clue. I was thinking about a new song, rambling down Deep Avenue. Thinking about a new song, rambling down Deep Avenue. Shot, 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 shot. So we went up to a party. It was in the midnight hour, driving ragtag through the hills. The Ferlinghetti's bastion up steep steps. I look behind and I see the black bay below, surrounded by gleaming jewels and black velvet. Crisscross necklaces and sparkling bridges. Everything looked the same, and now nothing was the same. We all stumbled down Victorian corridor to that kitchen. Alan, in from Micah Cumber, stark naked by the sink, wearing only beard and trademark horn rims. Oak table groom and with cheap drunk wine. Air is thick with weed. Alan sits next to me on a neighbor woman's lap. We're talking quietly amongst ourselves in somber tones. Feel a little too good on a night like this. This. Neil appears standing in front of the fridge, head bowed down, clutching a shoebox full of clean Mexican weed. Not a cedar stem in sight. Standing taut-jawed, talking to no one, not even himself. Raw-boned, wild as jailbird, and red-line fever in the night. All knitted brow, smiling sweetly, shy like a girl. Tina rolls a massive joint from tissue thin Chinese newspaper like a rocket, traveling hand to hand. Smoke drifts over cheap jug wine cans, or green death reindeer. Then I gotta pee. I go down home to the toilet. From behind the door comes soft, desperate knocking. I zip up quick, standing in the doorway. I see a naked holy man holding a cereal bowl full of wine and puke. I step aside as he carefully pours gut-free vomit alms in a porcelain bowl. I see and smell wretched blood, soul nausea, and cheap red wine. Just the holy men and me, standing in the loo, waiting for the shooter down. As the ice just grew and grew, shivering down Deep Avenue. expect this tonight. Thank you for appreciating that, because I know you know all about this kind of stuff. I've been living in Europe, I'm pretty far away from it. Here's a song I wrote and recorded with Lou Reed. It's called You Can't Relive the Past. Said what's done is done. You can't relive the past. What is blown and so's the bridge. You can't relive the past. Memory runs went by your eyes, so real and so fast. But damn, this burst the essence spilled. You can't relive the past. No, you can't relive the past. You can't relive the past. Damn, this burst the essence spilled, but you can't relive the past. I set beauty on my knees, you can't relive the past. I ran my guns for Robert E. Lee, but you can't relive the past. A lesson learned from poetry, we can hide behind no mask. No mask can hide your liberty, you can't relive the past. No, you can't relive the past. You can't relive the past. No mask can hide your liberty, you can't relive the past. The kids leave school. It's so subtle, it's so cruel. And he has gotten rusty. The Wild West got tamed fast. You sit with your remote control. You can't relive the past. Oh, you can't relive the past. You can't relive the past. Sit with your remote control, but you can't relive the past. Use yourself with anything. You can't relive the past. Mistakes are what they'll always be, but you can't relive the past. Many things you thought you'd say were like stars in a crash. Your future's now just waking up. You can't relive the past. No, you can't relive the past. You can't relive the past. Your future's now just getting up. You can't relive the past. Really think this world would change, you can't relive the past. Reality's not what headlines say, you can't relive the past. Suddenly it's all over, for the city's topmost mast. You're drifting like a wooden doll, and you can't relive the past. No, you can't relive the past. You can't relive the past. Drifting like a wooden doll, but you can't relive the past.
Eric Anderson and Lenny Kay. Happy birthday, Lawrence Ferlinghetti. Sam has handed them out.
Yeah, we're going to do a tribute, one of Lawrence's most well-known poems.
I am waiting for the second coming. And I'm Clayton of Arizona, and I'm waiting for the grace of wrath to be stored, and I'm waiting. To see God on television, piped into church altars, if only they can find the right channel to tune in on. And I am waiting for the Last Supper to be served again with a strange new appetizer. And I am perpetually awaiting a rebirth of wonder.
And I'm waiting for the meek to be blessed and inherit the earth without taxes. And I'm waiting for forests and animals to reclaim the earth as theirs. And I am waiting for the way to be devised to destroy all nationalisms without killing anybody. And I'm waiting for lids and planets to fall like rain. And I'm waiting for lovers and weepers to lie down together again in the new rebirth of wonder.
I'm waiting by the Stewart to go from the life, and I'm waiting for the form of life to be over, and I'm waiting to sail for happiness, and I'm waiting for a reconstructed Mayflower to reach America with its pictures forwarding and TV rights, social factors and naked, and I'm waiting for the
and I am waiting for Aphrodite to grow live arms out of
Borders to come again, use some green fields to come back again, and I am waiting for some strange abundance, and I am waiting to write the great indelible poem, and I am waiting for the last long careless rapture, and I am waiting for the fleeting colors of the Grecian urn to catch another glass and embrace, and I am waiting perpetually and forever the renaissance of wonder.
Bless all your hearts. Take some Lawrence home with you tonight. All love, 100 years old, Lawrence Ferlinghetti.
Ran into Eric on the street a few minutes ago and he said, "It's over." I said, "It's over? I'm just gonna play."
I didn't say that, I said you were early.
Yeah, I'm early, so. Eric and I have never played together before, have we? How weird. You know you so well, and it's like, how did that happen? Donna would have liked a day like this, with its various very realistic unrealities, each about to become too real for its locality, which is never quite remote enough to be Bohemia. Dada would have loved a day like this, with its light bulb sun which shines so differently for different people, but which still shines the same on everyone and on everything, such as obscene. A plane in a gilded cloud. A dishpan hand waving in a window. Or a phone about to ring. Or a mouth about to give up smoking. Or a new newspaper with its new news story of a cancerous dancer, yes. Dada would have died for a day like this. With its sweet street carnival. And its too real funeral just passing through with its real dead dancer. So beautiful and dull in her shroud, and her last lover lost in the unlovely crowd, and its dancer's darling baby about to say, Dada, and its passing priest about to pray, Dada, and offers so transcendental apologies, yes. Dada would have loved a day like this, but it's not so accidental analogies. Happy birthday. This is from Pictures of a Gone World. Does somebody else there? Since we're hanging out, I'm going to do one more really super short one. Let's see what happens here. Picasso's acrobats epitomized the world, and there were 80 churches in Paris, which I had never entered. And my hotel's door smiled terribly, and words were trombones, incoherent parrots, chattering idols. But that night I dreamt of Picasso opening doors and closing exits, opening doors and closing exits in the world. I dreamt he painted a Picasso in my room, shouting all the time, pas symbolique, c'est pas symbolique. I'm gonna back up Eric for a second. We agreed to play on no key whatsoever. Thanks for being such a sport, Eric. Okay, thanks.
Florian is my cousin.
Terrible, horrifying sounds.